This is Jen Kahn with Wonders Wealth, powered by Radish Digital. We hope you've been enjoying our Wonders of the First conversation with World Series champion Curt Schilling and former Magic the Gathering head game designer Brian Tinsman. Today we have part 3 of 4 for you. Part 3 looks at the Wonders of the First from both a collector and gamer perspective, and how Wonders is embodying those two separate groups by taking the best of others while also breaking traditions and norms by blazing its own path. Wonders of the First is the revolutionary collectible card game released in March 2025 and created by Brian Tinsman. Enjoy part 3.
Right, this game is going to grow and become something magical on its own because of its players, but all of it. Get rid of all of the white noise. The gameplay is unbelievably fun, and that will win the day in the end. And that gets back to the whole rules discussion of why I'm involved. I want that to be as rock solid as anything that exists, and I think
it's so fun to hear that as a designer. I put years into it, and to see it like really connecting with people is just it's an amazing feeling. You were
Well, yeah, and you should be proud. You should, and Brian, I can't imagine the well, and I've told you this, like, you don't get to have an all hands meeting with the design team and figure out rules. Your all hands is two, right? Your two hands, like, and that's tough, man. That's because I think you've done a phenomenal job of not remaining in the silo and just bouncing ideas off walls back to yourself. I think with Rommel and some other players and some of your testers are. Phil is one of my, whose name is not Phil, is one of my favorite people in the world. But I think they're really smart people, and you have to approach this from a 30,000-foot view with only two eyes, and that can be daunting. And that's what I've said to Brian a bunch of times. Hey, I'm here for that. You want to bounce something off me? Bounce it off me, because that I understand. So to you players out there, it's just real quick, and Brian knows this. If you look at the wonders of the first universe in a diagram, and you look at every single keyword and every rule in the system, and you interconnect those in this giant spider web, you understand that, hey, you know what? Let's just change this. It never does just change this. It changes 21 other things potentially. And I always use the green, yellow, blue. There are things you can change that have no effect on anything but the actual text you're printing. There are yellow things where you change this, it's going to change 2 or 3 things, but that's okay. And there are red things, if you touch them, it touches the core system. And so I understand when someone says to Brian, you should just change the text on this card. Well, first off, you can't reprint the cards. You're not reprinting the cards. So we're not changing the text. So between the text and the rules, I have to know as a player that I have the right answer. Because what you don't want from a designer is a game full of players going to the rule book every turn of every round. You want it to be intuitive. And I think that's where he's getting this. And I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was, in some senses, Wonders was a chance to do a reset on some of the old traditional games. Like I worked on Magic sets for 10 years plus, and that incredible game, but built up piece by piece, time with new rules and new abilities added every year over the course of 30 years, and you accumulate some bubble gum and duct tape in the rule system as you go along, and you try to make it all work. And so if I was still working on Magic, I would be thinking about like how do we reset and do a new product that has all the same strengths, but starting over with a new foundation based on what we've learned over the past 30 years of it. And so
well, that's Matt. That's Wonders, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, that's exactly what you brought, and that's Wonders is. And listen, I'm not. I get that they're the New York Yankees of the trading along with Pokemon, but when you set out to create something in and of itself, instead of setting out to create something to beat something else, which I think you accidentally did here. I think you made something. There's you can feel the magic and I'm using that term, the Magic the Gathering in it, which I think is an enormous piece to this, because you certainly would like Magic players to come over and go, oh, here's something different. Oh my God, but the differences are stark, and the no reprints and no card is ever going to be obsolete. I wish I would have been in the room when you guys were doing that, because I would have been screaming, "Are you effing crazy?" But there, your players are going to hold you to that, number one, and number two, I think that is going to end up making. I'm coming at it. I'm holding up these cards like I got like a 27 Babe Ruth, but I'm looking at these cards from a value perspective, and that's why the market is going to do nothing. These cards are already selling for thousands of dollars on eBay, and I know, because I paid one. I'm not proud to admit that, but that's why I look at the future of the game from a collector's perspective, which is every bit as, to me, I don't know if they feel that way, but it's every bit as important as the gameplay piece. Because when that first Helia Hexbane sells for $22,000 on eBay, the world's going to stand up and go, wait a minute, what is this? Because it's not out to the masses yet, and that will help that happen.
So, Curt, let me ask you, how many hours do you spend on playing?
Nope. I'm not going to give data like that to embarrass myself. I spend a lot less time playing than I do, than I will be in the future. I'm working with the other game, and I'm putting together what I hope will be something available in the future. Was an example of play booklet, which it won't be part of the rules, but it'll be something that hopefully players will be able to download and look at examples of every keyword in the game and how it actually plays out in the game, and making a lot of these things understood. That, oh, okay, because one of the tough parts, I'm sure Brian said, is that he's in, excuse me, is new players, the less ambiguous, the better. And new players coming into the game, you want them to be able to seamlessly get into and understand and kind of graduate, I guess how I'd put it, through the different orbitals to understand the different keywords, because the key to mastering this game is never just understanding how your hand plays. It's always understanding how your hand plays against your current opponent's orbital, right? Which means you need to have an understanding of how all 6 of them operate, and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And that's why I said I can't even imagine the mathematical algorithm to figure out the possibilities, which are far, far bigger than any card game I've ever played inside of a Wonders game, because it's a defined 7 rounds. It's not going more than 7, which is, number one, is a huge, huge benefit to bringing in new players, is knowing you can sit down and play in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And it's not going to be a 3-hour game of passing and all the other crap that comes around. And that's a monumental thing, not just for the players to learn it, but also for the company if they want to put tournaments on, which I assume they're going to be doing in hopefully in quantity around the world, which is, hey, we can run a tournament that doesn't have to be 4 days long. We can run a 4, 5, 6 round $1 million to the winner tournament in wherever in 3 hours. And now you're talking about potentially, I mean, we've seen it before. I watched a Hearthstone online card game championship in China. They put 100,000 people in the stadium to watch it on the Diamond Vision. I mean, but that's where this stuff can go, and that's where I think this game can go, and I want to see that, and I want to, because then I'll be able to say I knew Brian back when he was not a billionaire. So no, I think this has I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I was gonna kind of add one more question, not kind of on Wonders, and then we're gonna go to Kyle. But Brian, did you have anything else? Or Curt, did you have anything else for Brian?
I could just talk about game design indefinitely, so I'll just try to keep it short. But my view of this kind of a trading card game product is that you got to look at it in terms of there's many layers of the hobby experience, right? So like when people talk about the game, usually they're talking about like what you're doing during the actual gameplay. You can call that the ortho game, and then like the layer above that is your deck building, your decisions, right? And you have a whole rule set around that. And the layer above that is the meta, like what's the strategically more successful. Do I need to watch out for the Umberthane players and play something that counters against them? And then the layer above that is building your collection. Like, do I want to trade or just come and play sealed and get rid of my cards if I don't like that? And so you can live in any of those layers, right? And traditionally Magic has been very much about gameplay. Pokemon has been very much about collecting. They still have the other layers, but they really focus there. And with Wonders, it was an opportunity to connect those all the way through and have something that is extremely strong on the collecting and extremely strong on the gameplay. And that connection hasn't really been made before that you can point to out in the marketplace. And so that's what I think we're doing well.
What a great analogy. I'd never thought about it like that, but I think that last part was just revealed to me in the sense that Pokemon is about collecting, and the big news around Pokemon has always been about the $1 million card, and Magic has always been about insanely deep gameplay and the meta deck and the meta game and all the and while certainly Magic has its collectors and Pokemon has its players, none of them have married the two. And I think given the art in this game, the formless foil cards are some of the most beautiful cards I've ever seen. You literally, I'm living in the collector's realm while I'm playing, and I'm going to shift gears, and each of those pods and all the pods, the deck building and the DBS system and valuing decks is seamless and easy, and you can live inside of one of those and have a full-throated hobby in and of itself, and that's pretty amazing.
So, thank you, Brian, for joining.
This is Slappy White. We want to thank everyone who joined us for part 3 of our 4-part sit-down with World Series champion Curt Schilling and head game designer for Wonders of the First, Brian Tinsman. Join us back for the final installment, part 4. Thanks, everyone.